All right. So I thought I'd take the time out here. I'll just repeat myself over and over and over again here until people start dropping by. Have myself a little bit of tea here. By the way, that's milk thistle and clove. Pretty good. So I thought I'd take the time out today. This is kind of spontaneous, like I've been doing things here lately. And I'm going to go ahead and play my book, my entire book. So I want to share a little background concerning some things, just in case anybody was interested. And I want to talk about a couple things too in regard to being online and how long I've been online and that whole thing. All right, so about 2.5 years ago, maybe longer, I had decided to go ahead and write a book. Um, I was prompted to begin writing many years ago. And I always thought that it didn't really make much sense to me at the time, meaning the reason why for me, I just thought I'd be another schmuck that had written a book that would get lost in the sea of forgetfulness here in this world. I have been online here for close to 16 years now, I guess. And it's still just, it's at a turtle's pace. Um, and I've done a lot. And about half of what I had done, I actually deleted from the early stages. I was going to quit altogether because it was just, for me, just absolutely pointless to continue to doing what I was doing. And I know nobody understands that unless you've been doing it as long as I have been doing it. And it's like, oh, hang in there. It's like, I'm 65. What am I hanging in here for? You know, it's the same type of thing that's been transpiring for a long time. So, excuse me if I get discouraged. You get tired of encouraging yourself. And then people show up at times to, you know, help you maintain your sense of self encouragement because it really is, for me, I come to realize a long time ago, it's all about what I do in regard to myself and how I motivate myself, how I navigate through the things I've been going through and just doing this stuff, which most of it honestly has been alone. And that gets tiring. And I know those will come by and say, oh, you were never alone. Really? Right now in this room, I'm speaking to the camera. It doesn't matter who else may be out of phase with me in this room. It doesn't make a hill of beans because what I do is what I do. It's not any other occupant here in this space. For those that say we're not alone, I know that. Well, you think I'm an idiot? But the feeling in what I do and what I am doing is my own, space that I'm working through. It's me walking in the gravity of my own shoes. So yes, I don't have a team. I haven't had any of that. And, I've been thankful for people to show up when they did. But, it's almost 16 years and it's like, So I really didn't have a whole lot of desire to write a book. Again, to emphasize, which began about 2.5 years ago, which I, put together, published. I wrote it in like 3 weeks and edited it. There's probably a couple more, typos in it, but I did that. I did the graphics, created the theme for it. The reason why I call it picking apples under the Milky Way, incarnate reflections of Randy Keith, because it reflects my life from childhood. And I really, if I was to spend more time with it, which I really needed to do, you need like 6 months to a year to really write a book. And I mean, full time to actually do it. I was doing it part time and doing it at breakneck speed. So overall, I think it turned out pretty good, and especially how it resolved itself, because within the last 2 chapters, I had no idea what I was going to do. And I just put my hands to the keyboard and start typing words and step back, and I seen what was there. And like I do a lot of things, I do things not because I already have it. It's because I manifest it that way. And you never know what's going on with somebody. You never know how they're working within themselves. And the things that I've been doing and do, it has a lot to do with what I have developed over the many, many, many years. So I'm an elder. I've been doing this for a very long time. I had position and prominent position within ministry and respect. And then I come online and spend almost 16 years doing what I've been doing here, which has been like pulling teeth. And so, long story short is that in regard to the writing of the book, it was like, okay, I just put my head down and decided to go ahead and do it. Not because I wanted to. I just been doing a whole lot of things, not because I wanted to. I'm just doing it to do it. And that takes a lot of discipline and a lot of focus, and that's something I trained myself to do over the years. Being bedridden and sick forces you to move out of where you're at into a different way of thinking, a different way of doing things, having to stop doing things because you can no longer do them, to do them a different way. I've started over many, 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 many times. Okay? Long story short is that I'm going to look to share that with you today. And if you listen to it, you listen to it. If you don't, you don't. I'm just doing what I feel to do in the moment. I'm not going to give it that much more other than that. And whatever happens with this channel, wherever it's going, honestly, this is not a negative connotation. I just don't care. I don't care to connect myself to what may take place anymore. What matters to me is what's happening with me in the moment. Simple as that. I'd rather be doing many other things than this. As you've probably already guessed, I've been working through my discouragement over these years because it's, again, to emphasize, to use the expression, it's been like pulling teeth. And pulling teeth is not fun. It's not pleasurable. It's not exciting. It's not something you stand in line for. So I've been at this for quite a long time, and I am just doing what I'm doing. And, whatever other people do, I'm not competing with what's online. I see what's out there, and I just really don't have any interest in most of it, honestly. I'll listen to a little bit of it, and then I get bored, and I want to watch cartoons or something. I'm not really interested in what's happening within the so-called spiritual communities. I don't really care what's going on with the phenomenon in this world. I just don't care anymore. Haven't really cared for a long time. Only interest that I really had when, as far as like with cryptozoology and different things like that, is when I was younger. And I do mean younger. I'm talking about when I was about 6 years old. That's where I was interested in it. Later on, I still held an interest for it, but it, like most things, for me, it's not that I get bored with it. I'm just kind of like been there, done that, okay. Do I have to stand around and stay in this place any longer? It's kind of like that type of thing. The things that I would really love to be able to do, that I was doing when I was in ministry. I was in ministry in different areas of ministry, but where I was going and what I was doing was music ministry, and I played a little bit of secular music. Now I'm talking about myself. That's fine. It's my channel. I did a little bit of secular music later on, Okay. Really wasn't a big fan of it. I was more interested in doing what I wanted to do, which was spiritually minded. And it was just my heart, and I was sharing and I was mirroring my soul. And so, I was doing that within ministry. And then, I got sick and continued to get sick. And so much to the point where I could no longer walk. And it's a long story, and it was very traumatic. And I re-experienced a lot of things in the process. Some things I can talk about, some things that it's impossible to even talk about. Even if I had the words, nobody would really understand what I'm saying, majority of the people anyhow. So what's the point of talking about the experience? Doesn't, profit anything really. Doesn't benefit anybody really. So I'm not really big on the experience talk stuff. So, but yeah, that's my first love is really art. It really is. I love animation. I did. I still love storytelling, and there's always truth to my storytelling. It's all weaved within things that I know. And then I try to communicate it in a way that, that may be interesting, well, at least interesting to me. Okay. And perhaps in the process, it becomes interesting to other people. But there's a love that I have for that. I like, things related to art in that way, and music is a huge thing for me. But it's all kind of all part of the same thing. Ultimately, what I wanted to do is become I wanted to do film because that covers all the mediums, So, yeah, I didn't start out wanting to be, I don't even consider myself being a spiritual leader. Okay, I don't. But it seems to be kind of like the thing that I fell into. I really had no desire to do that. I was just doing things because out of need for other people and just because I love people. And, when I was in ministry, that's really the thing. But again, emphasize, it was my love for the arts and music. And that was the best platform for me because it allowed a purity of energy to flow through me without any restraint, And so I'm going to go ahead and play the book for you. And, you can listen to it or not listen to it. Either way, this is what I'm doing today. And yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess. After it's over with, I'll come back on, I guess, and, sign off. All right, folks. So let me see if I can find it. I just set it up just before I did this, so hopefully it turns out all right. That way it'll give me time to actually see what anybody's saying here, okay, as far as in the comment section. All right, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and play the book.
Picking Apples Under the Milky Way. The Incarnate Reflections of Randy Keith. Preface. At this time in my life, I felt it significant to share some of my specific insights that have developed throughout my personal experiences within this incarnation. So in writing this book, it is my intention to share some of these insights with those who may be seeking deeper self-awareness within their own life. Picking Apples Under the Milky Way, The Incarnate Reflections of Randy Keith. Chapter 1. A whole lot of chirping going on. Illusions of a staged reality. I remember walking to school in the morning as a child and routinely listening to the melodies sung by local birds. I would find myself mimicking their phrases as a call and answer while contemplating the species indigenous to my area. I found it interesting that these birds would have their own unique pattern of notes, which they would repeat over and over again each morning with only slight variation. Like clockwork, I could expect them to sing the same song each morning over and over again until the season changed and they then migrated. It wasn't until later that I considered the repetitive singing and chirping to be the first key to considering this world being a staged reality. Within this world, we soon come to accept things as they are and readily embrace the instruction we receive as the basis for what is called the natural order of life. We simply receive this as our given reality without need to question it and quickly become indoctrinated within this mindset. In this world, it is less accepting for those that would question the notion of this being anything other than natural or normal. Personally, this always made me feel very uneasy. In many cases, when things didn't fit into this worldview, it would be written off and or dismissively categorized as unknown, and then likely passed off as something unconventional and not for serious consideration. Now, when recalling the repetitive patterns of those birds as a child, I had also begun to see other repetitive characteristics in other creatures, and most notably in so-called human beings. Recurring behavior, habit patterns, and personality temperaments varied slightly, but the outcome of these characteristics and patterns were mostly predictable. The broad term used here for predictable behavioral traits would be the word instinct, and this due to DNA sequential coding, and therefore it is said to be part of the natural order. Or perhaps that which is being experienced here is the sequential alteration of original coding. Perhaps within the human being, there is coding to refrain from questioning this reality. Why is there little or no tolerance given to such considerations within the majority of the secular and non-secular institutions? For the most part, it is accepted in society that we are merely the composition of chemistry and biology somehow knitted together to make up conscious awareness, or that of faith-based theories of us being born out of an etheric hierarchical system. What is clear to me is we have just enough information and experiences only to theorize. We may believe, but believing and knowing with certainty are completely two different things. Eventually, one would think to consider this design's underlying blueprint or code, and perhaps contemplate what we are truly experiencing here, and perhaps, in the process, come to know our real purpose within this world. The present conventional doctrine would say we are a biological life form void of any conscious pre-existence, and we have been spawned out of and limited to this so-called natural order. After all, the idea of pre-existence is reserved for the fanciful world of deities, gods, or so-called make-believe, right? In contrast, it is interesting to note that within certain religious doctrine, one is promised eternal life, but only if they forsake themselves with unquestioning obedience. Why is it that within certain religious doctrine do we have that if a person devoutly follows through unquestioning servitude and loves not their life unto death, they will achieve life eternal? The fear of consequence is such a driving force for obedience in this case, it gives way for very little need to question. Considering this does, however, present the questions who are they that would command such obedient behavior, and what are we that would require such influence and or control? Definitely a whole lot of chirping going on here. So what is truly behind this ongoing, repetitive, predictable behavior? Is this a staged reality? Have we been and are we being programmed to serve an agenda of ancient origin? If so, what role of responsibility do we serve in this ancient play? Can we rely on our experiences as evidence for absolute, reliable, universal truth? Again, we have enough information and experiences only to theorize, but not to truly know. We may believe, but believing and knowing with certainty are completely two different things. Note, the confidence of certainty through experience may be an illusion in of itself. Is so-called biology just an interface for one's consciousness? And has this world and or reality fields been altered now, limiting conscious awareness to such a degree? It is said, we are spirit, but what is spirit? Let us ponder this insight from a 6th century BC Chinese philosopher and founder of Taoism Lao Tzu, quote, "He who looks will not see it. He who listens will not hear it. He who gropes will not grasp it, the formless nonentity and the motionless source of motion. The infinite essence of the spirit is the source of life. Spirit is self. Walls form and support a room, yet the space between them is most important. A pot is formed of clay, yet the space formed therein is most useful. Action is caused by the force of nothing on something, just as the nothing of spirit is the source of all form. One suffers great afflictions because one has a body, but without a body what afflictions could one suffer? When one cares more for the body than for one's own spirit, one becomes the body and loses the way of the spirit. The self, the spirit, creates illusion. The delusion of man believes this reality is not an illusion. One who creates illusions and makes them more real than reality follows the path of the spirit and finds the way of the universe. End of quote. This reflection implies that spirit is our limitless, immortal essence, limitless inability to create what is called reality. So with this consideration, we don't have a spirit, we are an individuated spirit. A unique energetic awareness, and be it that all things are energy, means we are pre-existent, not only pre-existent, but transcendent of this or any reality field. Yet the majority in this world stumbles about with no memory of pre-existence. Why is this? Why is it that we are in these earth suits and are convinced we are the suit? Why do the majority of suit walkers continually have to slave themselves out in this world in order to survive? Why the continuation of suffering? Why are we here? Where were we before we came here? And how is it that we ended up here? More importantly, do we have a mission? And what is the cause for our amnesia? If one listens to the chirping long enough, one will eventually separate themselves from the indoctrination and their personal experiences long enough to ask these questions. What and who am I really? How did this reality field become as it is? And are these so-called reality field conditions the reasons for us not being able to remember our pre-existent intention for being here? Okay, so let's say we agreed to be in this reality field, therefore agreeing to this compromised condition that would cause us to forget our intended purpose. Why would we choose such a counterproductive objective? Why would we consent to live in a hostile world with no memory of purpose and that residing in a fragile biological body with no promise of survival? Now would such an intention produce a productive outcome? Under these conditions, might one expect a progressive evolutionary outcome? The conditions are more likely to produce regression than progression. The process of spiritual evolution is the progressive state of energetic growth expansion. Living here is hard enough without knowing who we really are and having no real idea as to why we made such a decision. Experiencing self differently for the process of spiritual evolution certainly doesn't require amnesia as the prerequisite. It all seems so counterproductive. So what is really going on here? What do we really know about ourselves and this universe? End of Chapter 1. Picking Apples Under the Milky Way. The Incarnate Reflections of Randy Keith. Chapter 2. What is this reality field and why the lack of pre-existent memory? This reality field is one of infinite expressions, which origin begins with the first formation intention-seeded vibration. This original energetic intention holds the complete design code for all potential reality fields, this being the original field or consciousness field. Be it that this is an individuated realization field, it is to be understood as an illusionary construct which is perceived through the design parameters of the Creator's conscious intended dreamscape. So the creation model, in all that it entails, is but a refractive conscious perception experienced by becoming part of the field itself, or that is to say, merging of oneself within the architect's intended dream. Note: to become part of or entering the field would imply you were once outside of the field. A very simple way to understand this is like interfacing with a highly sophisticated virtual reality software program. Through the interface, you become integrated within the holographic construct where you now experience self as the hologram. And this clearly allows for all possible sensation written within the code to authentically experience self differently. An illusionary construct that is perceived through the design parameters of the creator's conscious, intended dreamscape. So again, what is a reality field? It is a consciousness construct comprised of an assemblage of individuated conscious intended order or instructional codes. Think of the replication of biological cells that hold the complete instructions for infinite development, for holding form, etc. These cells of consciousness are individually encased in their own morphogenic or embryotic field, and collectively make up the fabric for all universal unified fields. Each consciousness unit or cell has 6 primary stages for procreative and co-creative development, this being a living code with endless potential for structure, which enables the embodiment for all consciousness, that is to say, the experiencing of self differently within the reality fields or dream worlds. Here are the stages of the primordial codes within the first formation intention seeded vibration, stage 1. The first electrotonal energy unit of complete conscious intention, stage 2. The infinite replication of that first consciousness unit forming the fabric for the unified field grid, stage 3. The harmonic crystallization of the grid, that is to say, that which creates density, building dimensional consciousness structure and the pulse wave perception of time sequences. Stage 4. Linking the harmonic information for the potential complexity of structure and directing the shapes of entry upon which forms are built. Stage 5. The universal morphogenetic or embryonic field. Stage 6. The encryption or code represented in the form of light, which affects the way energy moves within structure. This is understood as a consciousness field, however it may be better understood as a life field because there is nothing within it that isn't alive, and it's always in the process of transmutation unto transformation. There are 3 aspects or expressions of the first formation intention seeded, vibration, 1. The first intention formation, 2. A copy of that first intention, and 3. An inversion of that copy. Again, these being electrotonal units of complete energetic intention, holding the design code for all potential reality fields within this consciousness or awareness field. These intentions may be simply symbolized by 3 concentric circles, the first circle being the first intention, the second circle within the first circle being its copy, the third circle outside of the second circle or copy being its inversion. These 3 being the first formation intention's triune expression, this is from which we get the religious identifying terms, the Holy Trinity. This is a living system, the underlying subconscious structure from which matter is formed, known as primal substance. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Nikola Tesla. This universal structure can be seen as harmonic. The reason for the inability to access pre-existent memory is due to altered harmonic content. A simple analogy would be to think of a piano that has missing or non-functioning hammers and/or keys. In order for it to be played, it must be first repaired and then tuned. Spiritual healing can simply be seen in the same manner, repairing the pathway of the incomplete harmonic content and then tuning oneself to the original harmonic order. We lack harmonic information and therefore the ability to access our pre-existent awareness. The harmonic structure in this reality field, having been altered, coupled with our interface, physical body alteration, adds to the overall collapse of the original harmonic order, producing a self-consuming decomposition system. This field can be seen as an electromagnetic circuit. An electromagnetic circuit comprised of layers of grids and regulated energy centers. The directed motion of energy is determined by the ratios of the electromagnetic fields, and the grids function as blueprints or templates for the transharmonic movement of energy. Within the grids, like a circuit, have points that control the flow or regulation of energy. Energy, in this case, is the substance of directed conscious awareness or intent, and that being a precise embodiment of intended awareness, again, the transharmonic transition of that energy. The refraction of conscious awareness. This design or the alteration of this design is the determining factor of one's conscious perception. In this reality field, it is fair to say what you see is not what you get. This harmonic structure has been altered from its original design, blocking the natural energy current design and creating an inaccurate refractive conscious perception. This alteration is a deflection of energy flow, creating congestion, immobility of energy in our consciousness fields, resulting not only in one's misperception, but also the lifespan of the body, premature aging, emotional, mental, and physical illness, ultimately causing expiration of the body. It should be clearly understood that death is not part of the original order, so obviously this is not the original natural order of life. Energy. Energy is conscious, and consciousness is energy. Consciousness bands are bands of frequency which is to be understood as dimensions. Each dimension is an orderly mathematical structure that systematically directs energy. These structures can be referred to as grids, and these grids can be referred to as templates and/or figures. If energy is conscious and consciousness is energy, then dimensions are bands of consciousness making up the experiential perception of self. Each consciousness band or dimension in this particular reality field is holding the consciousness of the atomic, emotional, mental, and physical awareness. The three-dimensional bands of this reality field or universe. 1. The subconsciousness band equals lower level position conscious awareness. The first harmonic structural band equals one DNA strand consisting of 12 tones. Think of a circuit ground or structure foundation. 2. The instinctual consciousness band equals a complex code of conscious behavior patterns. The second harmonic structural band equals one DNA strand consisting of 12 tones. And 3. The reasoning consciousness band equals the process of forming conclusions, judgments, or implications from facts or premises. The third harmonic structural band equals one DNA strand consisting of 12 tones. These three-dimensional bands of consciousness allow one to live and have their being in this reality field or universe. This field is also to be understood as a harmonic octave. The 12 tones are made up of 12 magnetic base codes and 12 electrical acceleration codes. 12-dimensional bands equals 144 vector codes. A vector is a quantity having direction as well as magnitude in determining the position of one point in space relative to another. Vector codes are light structures, magnetic base and electrical acceleration codes that carry the instructions for the original universal life force currents. So the use of the word code, in this case, is the source's conscious intention of predetermined outcome made manifest. Dimensions 1 through 3 consisting of subroutines, complex behavioral patterns, and the ability to form conclusions through vast difficulty. So again, why the lack of pre-existent memory? It is due to missing harmonic content or energetic awareness, which we normally would have access to under the natural or original design structure. The code in this reality field has been altered, therefore that energy or information has been refracted from its original structured pathway, creating what can be called energetic arcing or displacement, that is to say, a skipping or jumping of energy to the point of least resistance. Here is where we can see the concept of a circuit and the flow of current, or in this case, redirected current. It should be clear at this point what I am talking about is our incarnate bodily experience relative to this fallen three-dimensional harmonic structure. Many may come to conclusions based on out-of-body experiences or so-called near-death experiences, but these really haven't provided complete answers for what is really going on here. Providing real solutions for healing in this three-dimensional reality field first requires asking the right questions, and you can't ask those questions if you don't know what they are. Again, let me emphasize, death is not a normal process. Incarnates here are amnesiacs and learn to accept this as being normal. However, the natural order is that of perpetual regeneration, and death is the condition of the alteration and refraction of this structure's original code. Indeed, there is nothing normal here. This altered geometric mathematical program has created a reverse polarization of the electromagnetic fields, where the magnetic contracting rotation fields being that greater than the electrical expansion rotation fields. This reverse ratio alteration resulting in a reality field of ever-increasing density. One may argue this conclusion, however, this universe is unarguably in a state of entropy and degeneration. We may theorize what a black hole is, but it wouldn't really matter if we were already residing in a black hole. Some astronomers estimate that 100 million black holes roam among the stars in our Milky Way galaxy. However, what I see being detected here is an ever-increasing density within this reality field, and this is due to the reversal of the original source code creation. End of Chapter 2. Picking Apples Under the Milky Way, the Incarnate Reflections of Randy Keith. Chapter 3. Reflections of the Immortal Self. What does it mean to be an infinite being? To have entered a reality field would imply you were once outside of that field. The infinite state of one's being is that of formlessness, a non-entity possessing all awareness and ability. In the infinite state, one is able to reside inside and outside of a creation simultaneously, the projecting of self within a creation through expansion and subdivision of one's energy, the embodying of self within all aspects of that creation's bounds. One's being is without beginning or end, making the creation an extension of one's self, or rather a mirroring of self as one experiences self within and through the parameters of that creation's design. A reality system. So what is it good for? A reality system or creation field is where we may display our unique qualities through the mediated demonstration of personal acts. In other words, vicariously experiencing self through the imagination, actions, and feelings of another identity. The vicarious experience within soul. The intention of the infinite being when immersing self within a creation field is to experience self differently, which means to experience self within vast, numerous ways. Form is the result of the imaginings within the infinite being brought into manifestation in the same way as the reality field itself. Through intention within the dream, the being becomes different aspects of the dream and sets parameters of individuality within each form to create the greatest engagement for that experience. Now, this may seem odd to some, but what I'm talking about here is role-playing. Therefore, in order for the experience to be fully embraced, the role must be believable by the experiencer, and this requiring the immersing of self completely within each identity or role uniquely and individually. Different forms one takes on allows for a reality to be experienced in this way, that is to say, vicariously. The being becomes the form and all aspects of its design, physically, emotionally, and intellectually. Whatever capability the form can hold or lack thereof, it is with pure intention to have understanding prior to the experience of becoming the form. This may be referred to as pre-manifest rehearsal. This is another way to appreciate all things being one, and that none is better than another, but only different. Vicariously experiencing self as many different life forms is a wondrous way of collectively building mutual ongoing respect for all life forms. Positions of identity, soul, dimensions are frequency bands, and frequency bands are consciousness bands. Soul is a class of differentiated identity experienced within this multidimensional creation field, beginning with the manifest identity entry point of this source consciousness field. 1. Pre-soul individuated collective manifest identity, primal order. Vibratory fields, these are 3 sound field levels, each level consisting of 3 levels. This is the first individuation within this source creation field. 2. Pre-soul individuated collective manifest identity, primal order oscillation fields. These are the light fields seeding races. This is the equal opposite or inverted expression of the vibratory fields or primal sound fields. This is the 5th octave or universe, comprised of consciousness bands or dimensions 13, 14, and 15. 3. First level soul subdivision identity, octave 4, consciousness bands 10, 11, and 12. 4. Second level soul subdivision identity, octave 3, consciousness bands 7, 8, and 9. 5. Third level soul subdivision identity, octave 2, consciousness bands 4, 5, and 6. 6. Incarnate or personality identity, octave 1, consciousness bands 1, 2, and 3. Calculations of probable selves for each reality field, primal order. Vibratory fields, 2,985,984 probable selves, divided by 12 equals 248,832. Primal order oscillation fields, octave 5, 248,832 probable selves, divided by 12 equals 20,736. Octave 4, 20,736 probable selves, divided by 12 equals 1,728. Octave 3, 1,728 probable selves, divided by 12 equals 144. Octave 2, 144 probable selves, divided by 12 equals 12. Octave 1, 12 probable selves. One's being is without beginning or end, making the creation an extension of one's self, or rather, a mirroring of self as one expands through the experiencing of self within the leaps of that creation's design. At this point, there should be the consideration that we are so much more than this incarnate experience, and all of the differentiated identity listed above is all part of our energetic awareness. One's being is without beginning or end. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. Albert Einstein. The infinite state of one's being is that of formlessness, a non-entity possessing all awareness and ability. In the infinite state, one is able to reside inside and outside of a creation simultaneously, the projecting of self within a creation through expansion and subdivision of one's energy, the embodying of self within all aspects of that creation's bounds. Within this universe of contrasting realities, knowing true self is the great neutralizer. Knowing self is healing self. The first step to one's sovereign path of healing is recognizing true self. Knowing and expressing one's self authentically is first acknowledging that you are not the manifest identity, but have only become the embodiment. Being here in this particular universe, octave 1, allows for what is understood as the experience of personality, the incarnate individuated experience in this animal body under these compromised conditions of no pre-existent memory, contending for survival, and this mortal corruption is quite challenging, especially for most of those in the later part of their life. So the first step to one's sovereign path of healing is that of knowing authentic self and realigning one's intention with that energetic awareness, and knowing that energetic awareness is your soul's intended purpose now becoming actuated. Knowing and expressing one's self authentically is first acknowledging that you are not the manifest identity, but have only become the embodiment. We are so much more than this incarnate experience. In the process of beginning to reintegrate our energetic awareness, we also begin to fulfill our intended soul's mission. This awareness is expressed through personal comfort, peace, self-love, and assurance. We begin to overcome by being aware or living in the moment, intending in the moment, peaceful fulfillment of our soul's reintegration. End of Chapter 3. Picking Apples Under the Milky Way. The Incarnate Reflections of Randy Keith. Chapter 4. Repairing this fallen three-dimensional harmonic structure. Healing self is the key to healing this universal structure. Living in the moment. This means being authentically present within oneself, that is, being aware it is not about the past or future, but truly being in the present. Being present ongoing determines the energetic intended outcome. Example, having unwavering intention for an outcome means to see it already finished. This creates the manifest intended energy within that moment. Intending isn't about visualization. Visualization is the animated outcome of ongoing intention, and ongoing intention actuates the manifest energy that can then become animated or visualized. The key here is feeling or intending it as already done or finished. In other words, releasing the energy in confidence as a completed work or creation, letting go after the energetic projection so the intended energy may take form, and then revisiting it with joy and thankfulness so it may manifest. Creators, we are. Impulsive reactive thoughts can produce imbalance within our being. Emotional thoughts creates energetic form within one's field, so clear intention is most important. Our thoughts create, a reaction produces energy, and over time, that energy reoccurring will manifest energetic form. The thinking process produces unique energetic waveforms that correspond to those intentions. The balanced state of thought creation is so to manifest and expand oneself. It is an extension of our multidimensional self. How a creation expands, grows, is through the same energetic thought intention. A thought creation will produce creative energy, and that energy will inspire the creator to focus on that feeling or intent that will potentially produce a repetitive pulse wave. We are internal beings. Whatever we energetically internalize becomes our outward manifestation creation, for it produces creative energy that feeds that outward manifestation or creation of our intent. We also can trap energy through our focus of intention. Trauma, shock, fear, etc. can produce strong emotional energetic reactions that we may find ourselves revisiting over and over again in order to attempt resolving the imbalance. But instead of resolving it, we are only reliving those fearful events, therefore energetically feeding the trauma and expanding that creation. The energy or frequency by which a creation is manifested also requires that same energy to survive. I use the word survive because a thought form can become a life form through our focus and intention. And in order for a life form to survive, it requires energy. And in this case, the very energy that created it, and because you, essentially, created it, it will require of you that same energy. Example. If you were traumatized and you revisit that event, you're building up energy trapping it, where it becomes a densifying, conscious, crystalline structure. And this form corresponds to the energy that formed it. And by you revisiting that trauma, that emotional event, you are feeding it that same traumatic energy that created it. This will eventually produce a creation, life form, within your biofield, and it will require of you the same energy that formed it. So like any life form in the first and second reality fields, octaves 1 and 2, there is the need for survival, and your created life form will provoke you, its creator host, by triggering the physical body's cellular memories connected to that trauma event in order that it may feed from the very energy that created it. This weakens your biofield and attracts other parasitical life forms that will feed off your energetic field. As communicated in Chapter 3, each being is a subdivision of its totality, meaning an incarnation is only a fractal or subdivision of the immortal essence or spirit, which the core aspect of it being a portal to one's own universal construct outside of this particular universal construct or reality field. Fallen intention. The purpose for spiritual beings creating programs of domination and control is to cause those to be willing to be subordinate in order that they may freely give their power away, therefore allowing those to access the subordinates' creation energy, that is to say, their universal constructs, their co-creations, etc. Essentially, one could say that the subordinates are giving over their deeds of creation and sovereign right to those beings through direct or indirect manipulated agreement or covenant. This is how, in part, the gods of religion lay claim to having created all things is due to the subordinates freely giving away their creative energy, and therefore the subordinates being convinced through conditioning, programming, and indoctrination to embrace these entities as their creators, therefore redirecting their focus and intention to that or those beings. Our intention produces energetic manifestation, and within our construct of belief, it can therefore be our liberation or captivity. Being aware of what occurs in our thought process throughout the day may give one deep insight into the energetic exchange that is occurring around and within us, allowing for the potential of self-regulation. The love we've always been. Our divine love is the great neutralizer within this universe of contrasting realities. The greatest aspect of self is our divine love. The energy center in the body where we may feel this aspect of divine love is where the thymus gland is located. From this point, we may project our pure intent, so to create out of love and joy, allowing for our unconditional love for all life. Yes, creators we are, and it is this reason we must take complete responsibility for all things we do and say. We must embrace our sovereignty, for without it, we will be unable to respond. In other words, without embracing our true identity as an infinite spiritual being, we become subject to victimization, playing the blame game, and/or a violator of others' free will. Embracing our infinite spiritual nature means to embody our love for all creation, for only through our true nature do we see ourselves as all things. Within this universe of contrasting realities, true self is the great neutralizer, for in our infinite being, we are the love that has always been, and outside of this, there is nothing greater. End of Chapter 4. Picking Apples Under the Milky Way. The Incarnate Reflections of Randy Keith. Chapter 5. The Path to True Self, a process to personal healing, repairing structural energetic pathways, when using our intention harmoniously with the natural order in a co-creative, non-competitive, universal, co-evolutionary manner. The system mechanics of our personal harmonic structure will organize itself and align with the original creation order. So in the practice of spiritual techniques and/or exercises, it is to be understood as fundamental systems that may allow for the focus of harmonious expression. The natural divine order may be experienced by simply aligning one's intention within one's daily present awareness. Being in the moment is special in that it gives the opportunity to be present in the moment and to allow one's divine nature to come forward in that moment. This awareness is the catalyst to healing our structural energetic pathways. Emotional imbalance, the energetic imprint. The original creation order is designed to be a perpetual, self-sustaining, rebalancing system, and again, one's structure will organize itself and align with the original creation order as one intends. However, if the choice is made to express the opposite of the original design intention to the point where it threatens the perpetual motion mechanics, the cosmic systematic order will restore balance by recreating the original creation blueprint through the energetic forces integral to that of the cosmic energetic formation. This is understood as cause and effect, which is the outcome of co-creation/creation within this universal system. The intended energy one puts into the system will manifest accordingly. However, this three-dimensional system which we presently are experiencing has been altered, and the system's reconfiguration has created a geometric mathematical program that is the opposite of its original design. And as mentioned, this contributes extensively to the conflicting karmic condition within this reality field. Karma, the energetic imprint. Our thoughts create. Impulsive, reactive thoughts can produce imbalance within our being. Emotional thoughts creates energetic form within one's biofield. This is an energetic imprint, or rather, an electrical impression within our biofield through energetic thought vibration. In simpler terms, this is recording our energetic intention, whether it is purposeful or reactive. This is the design function of this universal system for manifestation. However, when attempting to manifest in an altered system, the results easily become inconsistent and/or chaotic. Again, the system's reconfiguration has created a geometric mathematical program that is running opposite to that of its original design. However, to realign one's intention may take only a moment, but if gone unchecked, the imprint will create a feedback loop of that reactive thought vibration intention. Depending on the amount of emotional energy used, will determine the strength of the imprint's manifest energy, or what is understood as karma. Creators we are, revisited. The focus of intent is how we expand self within a reality field or universe, and that focus of aligning one's intention with the original creation intention allows for such expansion. The gift of free will choice gives us the opportunity to vastly experience self in such diverse manner, and such opportunities will produce challenges of how far we are able or willing to extend that experience without altering the system code. To know you are a creator is to understand the responsibility that comes with it. Free will may be a gift, but it certainly comes with the cost of accountability, for within this construct of at-one meant, what one creates affects the many. For the love of all life. Here, within this fallen reality field embodying unconditional love, becomes the greatest challenge. Navigating through a fallen world with the intent to assist for the betterment of that world can be extremely difficult, and then you begin to realize it's not about struggling, laborious effort, or sacrifice, but rather it's about using the creative imagination, being truly present in the moment, and letting go. Through a simple proclamation, we may reset our intention. Quote, I am a wonderful co-creative being that works through loving intention of the creative imagination. Being in manifest reality and at the same time being perceptive of oneself as the embodied expression of the source is the state of true self-actualization. This creates the competent ability of unwavering, unconditional love. It is also important to understand that our genuine, unique, sovereign expression really does matter, and this isn't about mimicking or surrendering to someone or something. This is about our true self-realization, the love we've always been. Transmuting fear. First of all, it is important to understand that fear is not part of the natural divine order. So anger, judgment, hate, terror, jealousy, deceit, rudeness, unworthiness, etc. are all fear-based emotions and should be considered artificial. Transmuting these energies to love, joy, serenity, admiration, optimism, amazement, compassion, adoration, acceptance, etc. is through the state of true self-actualization. We are amazing co-creative beings which work through loving intention of the creative imagination, tuning and playing our composition. The body we are in is an instrument in need of repair. In order to play our soul's composition, one's manifest blueprint must accommodate the perpetual life force currents necessary for restoration and the fine-tuning of our instrument. The gift of free will requires co-creative personal attention for such repair. This is not about waiting around for someone or something to show up and fix us. We are in this reality field because our intention at some point put us on this soul's journey's path, so personal responsibility is required. So what's the process? Again, is it through the state of true self-actualization? If we are looking to heal spiritually, then it's an everyday in-the-moment process of renewing the mind to that which is true self. So again, let us define what is true self so that we may allow the ability to heal. So true self is understood as that which is transcendent of identity, outside of that which is called manifest reality, that is to say, outside of any creation field. We are the essence of all life. We are the ancients of pre-creation. We are truly that which defies description. But if we are to be defined, we would be best summarized as the highest and most beautiful expression of love. It is so important that one knows this love is their true eternal nature. Yes, in our infinite state, we are a formless non-entity, all-knowing, all-powerful. But what is the substance that makes up our very being? The greatest energy that there is or ever will be, pure love. Our soul's pure composition is our transcendent love song. We must continually practice our song that we may be ready to perform at any moment. This is our greatest challenge in this world, the process of reintegrating the love we have always been. Reintegrating our true energetic nature, true self, creates the process of metamorphosis unto transformation, which is our ascending love. We are the highest and most beautiful expression of love. In all things, let us renew our minds to this eternal truth. We are the love that has always been. Be kind to yourself. In turn, you'll be kind to others. Know self, feeling free within yourself to say this out loud slowly, contemplatively, and without any reservation. I am love. And remember, practice makes known the perfection you really are, the highest and most beautiful expression of love. End of Chapter 5. This concludes this audiobook. Remember that you are the love you have always been.
Forgot to turn everything up. All right, so it was good to listen to that again for myself. That is jam-packed full of wisdom and profitable words. So much so that you have to listen to it over and over and over again because there's a whole lot there. So anyhow, I guess from time to time I'll go ahead and play that here. Yeah, what else was I going to talk about? Oh yeah, the workshop. Still waiting on that. So I don't know if you're still here, folks. That my book is actually, just listening to it is a lot to take in, and it carries a lot of energy, and it can put you to sleep because it carries so much energy the body can't contain a lot of what's there. So anyhow, um, I really don't have much to say about the workshop other than what I have had said about it. So I'm not going to repeat myself today about that. I put a question mark after that within the title about workshop, and that's really what I meant by that. I didn't know what I would be saying about it, or I just kind of left it open. So I still don't really have anything to add other than I'm just waiting for more people to come in on this. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe I'll do a live where I'm just focusing on the workshop, but I don't feel to do that right now. Definitely not. I don't know if that's something I'll be doing in the future. Things are shifting for me quite a bit, especially over the last 24 hours, I would say. A lot's changed. So there it is. Probably didn't need to share that. Yeah. But anyhow, I obviously did. At least brought it to one's awareness if they're listening. But yeah, okay. I'm just going to go ahead and sign off here. Hopefully, well, I was going to say this. I was going to say the same cliche things I normally say, just because I go on autopilot. Thanks, folks. We'll talk again. Hope to see you again. Blessings to you. Take to heart what you heard within this video in regard to my playing of the book. Highly recommend going back and listening just to that part. You can pick it out, find the different sections. If anybody wants to step up and put in the time markers for each chapter, that would be great. I'm not going to do that. I'm tired of working at all this. I've been at this way too long. I'm tired of putting all the work that I've been putting into it. It's made me exhausted, so I'm just not going to do that. So if anybody wants to do that, put time markers within the book for the chapters and post it within the comment section. Thank you. That'd be great. All right, folks. Blessings